So it's September, and for all kicks and giggles, it's fall. And some of the things that you're going to want to be doing with your herbs, you got to be taking care of them and getting them ready for the fall. And the biggest thing that I have to do in my garden is I got to harvest. I got to cut a lot of things back. Those perennial herbs, right? They keep giving and giving and giving. But I'm going to cut them back today, and I may show y'all some of that. But I'm going to cut them back, and I'm going to dry them out or freeze them or do some things so that I'll have them throughout the winter. But one of the ways that one of the things you got to be sure to do with your herbs, right? Herbs are happy when you're trimming them. Oregano is happy when you're trimming them. Thyme is happy when you're trimming them. I kind of did me an experiment this year in my garden with thyme, right? To be able to show the people that I help garden, hey, if you don't cut it back, it starts looking strange. It starts looking woody. So to take care of your fall herbs, you got to trim them, you got to cut them back. And some of the other things that you're going to want to do before winter, like invest in some frost cloths, right? They sell them on places like Amazon, and sometimes they can be a little costly. But like mama back in the day, she used to take old bed sheets and cover her plants up with. Now, a frost cloth is different material than a bed sheet. One of the things that'll happen with like whole cotton on top of your plants is it'll freeze and it'll kind of attach to the plant. So that's a little tricky thing. But if that's all you got, when the weather gets super cold and supposed to ice, cover them up, and they will come back year after year. Um, the other thing that I thought about is like, why do I tell people? Why do I tell people grow herbs? And with a kitchen garden, the magic is in using the things from your garden, right? But another part of it is herbs are forgiving. And once you learn how to use the herbs in your garden, you're going to be more motivated to be taking care of your garden regularly so you can grow those bigger things like tomatoes and cucumbers and cabbages and all that fun stuff. But herbs are a great place to get started. Now I got a lot of friends that ask me a million questions about different teas and all these things for gut health. And herbs are the medicine that get you there. So if you're thinking about gardening, if you're like that mom who came and was bold enough and courageous enough to approach four women who are show enough gardeners. If you're one of those folks and you're interested in gardening, it might be cool to start out with herbs. My recommendation: get a big old pot, the biggest pot you can afford, or buy a raised bed, maybe something that's 2 by 3 or something like that, and plant you some herbs in there. I am working on like a planning guide for how to grow you some herbs this fall. I may share that real soon to help folks out. But yeah, let's harvest some stuff. And I got enough sage for all of America. But when I harvest for the fall, we get on in there and we take this stuff down to little or nothing. Um, you can use this. Y'all ever heard of those uh smudges? You can make a smudge with it, but that's not really my jam. But I'm gonna dry a whole bunch of this and give this away. So sage is a perennial plant, but after a few years, sage gets pretty woody. So you're gonna want to replace that plant. And by woody, I mean the stem of it gets pretty thick, right? But you see how much of that I took out of there? Ain't no shame in taking a whole bunch of that out of there. It'll grow back. Some of that I don't even need. But you take a bunch of it out of there, knowing that it will grow back. But for the winter, right? For you to make this come back well, you want it to focus on just roots. So I'm gonna take a whole bunch of that sage. Look at there. And I'm gonna show you how I clean this up and dry this. But yeah, we went from a whole lot of stuff to goodness. So that's how I cut mine back. And in all honesty, that much sage, this small amount, that's more than enough to get me through the rest of the fall and have plenty. That's all you do. When I tell y'all I got a lot of sage, I got a lot of sage. So look at that. So I told you how after a couple of years it gets woody. I hope you can see that. But like that woody piece, it started making roots. And for all kicks and giggles, you could put that in a pot and start planting that and have a whole nother sage plant. I'm not doing that because I got plenty of sage, but it's something that you could do with sage because it's a perennial and it keeps giving. This is my favorite herb. I love thyme, right? I put it in eggs most morning and it's just so good. I don't know if that's some real chef's menu, but you should try that. So I'm going to cut a bunch of this off. But I got to leave plenty of it fresh because I like it so much. But with your herbs, right, you don't have to be light-handed with cutting them back because they are forgiving. Oh my God, that smells so good. That is. Mm. But with your herbs, go ahead, cut them back hard because they will grow back. And because we're about to have all this excellent weather, right, under 90 degrees, your herbs are just going to naturally take off. So don't be embarrassed to, or don't be ashamed, don't be scared to give them a good thick haircut. I'm going to try to figure out how to get this thing up close so you can really see what all we got still happening. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Oops, see? Always some roots, right? So that looks like nothing. But if you get close, you already got some thyme growing back. So I'm going to just put a little hole and plop that in there. That's my harvest. And that's my plant, right? So I still left me a good amount for me to use fresh. But if you get real close in here where I cut this back, you see where all this little thyme is coming on up. I think I've been calling it oregano the whole time. But you cut it back real good. And I'm going to go in there and cut some more. And while we're here, you might as well just look at my little fall cucumber going on up there in heaven. This is basil. And you can be vicious with the basil because it'll come back. You got enough time that it's going to grow back whole new bushes. So I'm going to give it a good down to the bottom haircut. Just leave a little bit. Uh-oh. Don't lose the camera, girl. So there's still some basil back here, but haircut, baby. I got my oregano. It's the wild child. So oregano, is a good one, right? But it'll take over if you let it. And I mean, it'll literally take over a whole bed. So you always want to give oregano a very hard haircut because you see I planted it in the corner of this bed, but I mean it's probably got uh 2 feet worth of spread in it for real. Look how long that is. Oh, but it smells so good. So with oregano, I usually dry it up real nice and then I got these glass jars that I put it in, and sometimes I'll mix it with dried rosemary and dried basil and dried thyme, and I'll call that an Italian blend. Now I don't know if that's an Italian blend, maybe that's just the East Texas blend. But yeah, I gotta cut this back. Let me get to work. It's wild how this thing, it just goes. And the wild part is the pieces of it that touch the ground, they'll take root. And that's all fun and games until you want to have other stuff in that bed growing. So I gotta give it a good haircut. And my tip with herbs is don't be scared to cut. Winston just scared me, y'all. What's some of the stuff y'all use your herbs for? Okay, get some of this at the bottom. I'm all up close and personal. So before I go in, I'm gonna show y'all everything I cut up. That's basil, sage, oregano, and thyme. That's a lot of herbs.